Nació mientras jugaban a la Mega Drive y creció alimentándose de juegos de Zorman, el gamer. Un juego se me resiste.
Reuniendo la familia.
A single bored-looking guard stood between us and the exit. All the other soldiers must have been at the main gate, either being entertained or annoyed by Mr. Silton and the others. "How do we get past him then?" whispered Heather as we crept closer. The old lady smiled. "I'll create a distraction and you two run for it," she said. "No, Mum," said Heather. "If we're leaving, you're coming too." But Mr. Logan soon solved our dilemma.
Toma.
As we quietly jogged through the exit, Mr. Silton and the others tore round the corner in the van before screeching to a halt. All the while Mr. Preston shouting and gesturing for us to get in. When things had finally quietened down, I asked Heather what was going on. "It all changed after Dad died," she said, explaining that because the professor didn't want anything to do with me, the old man's financial investors split the company into 12 divisions and began manufacturing all sorts of robots. So the old man, he was actually my creator, my maker. I suppose a more poetic man might have called him my father.
Qué bonito.
Soon, the robots were sold to every country, Heather continued, saying that when a small skirmish in the Middle East turned into a global war, every country started using robotic troops. In literally less than a day, every country's robots realized that the other robots were not the problem, the humans were, and, very logically deserted, with disastrous consequences.
Bien hecho. Bien hecho. Bien hecho. Grande. Celebrando la Navidad entre los robots. Qué bonito. De dos equipos diferentes. Anda que el Madrid y el Barça iban a hacer un partido los dos pasándose la pelota entre ellos. Tomad, humanos, sufrid. No mercy, no mercy.
It suddenly all made sense. What the professor had said, all the other robots, and why no one ever wanted to talk about the war when I was around. All of a sudden, Alice shouted for everyone to hold on. We were being followed.
No. No quiero...
I've never really considered the idea of God, but I actually prayed that Heather was okay.
Exactamente. Eso no será sangre. Ah, no, eso es un cable.
Pretty far out of the van, and I wasn't sure I'd really braced her fall.
Ay, Dios, menos
Heather
mal.
greeted me with a calm smile. "I thought you'd find me easier than I'd find you, so I thought I'd stay put." I made a small shelter as quick as I could. It was soon pitch black and starting to rain, so Heather had suggested we rest. In the morning, when there would be better light, we could try to find our way home. "I don't think Dad ever imagined this would happen," said Heather with a sad look in her eye. "I mean, he would always talk about how he dreamt of a robot when he was a young boy. He and Mum was so happy when you finally turned up. I honestly think he thought robots like you could help the world, not kill millions of people." "Death is really sad," I said. It was an obvious thing to say, but Heather nodded. "When my best friend died," she continued, I asked Mum why people had to die. She said it was to make room for new babies to be born. I don't know why, but this made me feel both happy and sad at the same time. Mr. Preston
Qué hermosa respuesta para un niño.
Said, "There you are. We've been looking for you all night." He explained that they had lost the soldiers, but the van had broken down. Luckily though, it was actually only a short walk away. I must have looked sad when we got back, as the old lady sat down beside me. "What's the matter?" she asked. I told her that Heather had explained the war to me. The old lady sighed. "It's not your fault," before saying how the original idea was for the robots to be raised like children, learning and developing their own consciousness. But when the old man died and I was shut down, my consciousness was taken, hacked, and copied to every other robot, to bypass the growing up stage. Heather explained that
Eso es
every
lo que ocurrió.
robot had a tiny bit of my memories, of the old man, the house, of everything. So when the war broke out, hundreds of unstable robots kept arriving at the house. "I think it was like some kind of pilgrimage for them," said the old lady. "That's why we created a scrambling signal. It only works within a few hundred miles, but turns any unlicensed or illegal robots close enough into mindless zombies. That's another reason we were surprised to see you." Heather explained how most of the planet had been taken over by robots. She said they were looking for more people, but it wasn't looking good. They had received a radio signal from Japan. There was a few thousand people who survived there. "Lord knows how," said the old lady. "Their robots outnumbered people 50-1 by the time the war broke out." Heather said how she had been writing a virus that would shut any robot down. "I'm not really a great coder," she said. "Mum was trying to work out a way to boost the scrambling signal, but now you're here I've got an idea." The old lady smiled and slowly nodded. "We should be able to clone your personality and broadcast your consciousness to all the other robots." Heather smiled. "We'll make them all nice."
Qué bonito.
"Robot," interrupted Mr. Sultan. "We're nearly done, but we're all starving. See if you can catch us one of them rabbits."
¿Sabes cuál es el problema? Uy, tenemos que atrapar conejo. El problema es que esto no va a acabar. Esto no va a acabar. Si convierte a todos los robots en robots buenos, el ser humano se va a convertir en el robot malo.
It was strange. Heather was now as tall as me, if not taller. But at least everyone was back together.
A ver a qué conclusión va a llegar nuestro amigo robot cuando todo esté a punto de acabar.
After all we needed to do was save the world, or at least help put it back together.
Claro. ¿Salvar el mundo? ¿Para quién? ¿Los robots son malos o son buenos? Y los humanos somos los malos.
When I got back, I told everyone that I couldn't catch anything. I don't think anyone was too disappointed.
Vámonos. Capítulo 11. Hacía un capítulo corto, ¿eh? Cuánta felicidad, cuánto buen rollismo, a ver cuánto dura. Cuanto más buen rollismo hay en el juego, más radical y más contraste se hace con una tragedia inesperada. Ah, encadenado. ¿Está encadenado al perro? No lo he visto bien. Ojo, otro sueño. Esto no es fácil, esto puede parecer fácil, pero no es fácil porque... Por eso. Pero... Por eso... Y porque los controles están invertidos. Es que no me gusta el control. Es que no me gusta porque... No me gusta el control porque si le va dando golpecitos hacia la izquierda, hacia la derecha para ajustar bien en la dirección, hace el movimiento. ¿Veis? Hace eso. Y me raya la cabeza. Me vuelve completamente loco. Vámonos.
In the morning, Sim and Alice brought the blind man to the house. Despite his lack of sight, he was quite the computer expert. He talked the others through the process of setting up a video phone.
¿Dónde?
He said it should serve our purpose, but the low bit rate might make everyone's faces look a bit blocky.
Nighthawk. Suena eso.
The
Hay un montón de
device
referencias a pelis.
to life. Hello, Nighthawk. This is Dr. Hero of Japan. Are you receiving me? Over. Hello, said the old lady. This is Nighthawk. It's good to speak to you again. Dr. Hero explained that something had gone wrong and the enemy robots had nearly breached their defenses. We have everything we need to broadcast our nice virus and make the robots far more passive. It might take a few months. Can you hold out until then? Dr. Hero sighed. Well, we'll have to. I spent the rest of that day helping Sim and the blind man set up a computer with what they called the internet.
Big Chocolate Visit Online. Vamos.
The planet might have been ravaged by war, but this allowed people to communicate with each other. The old lady was concerned about viruses and other technical-sounding things, explaining that they might infect me. But Mr. Silton talked right over her, as he convinced everyone it was a great idea. It was amazing. When Heather and I looked at it, there was nothing but video games and awesome cartoons. When Mr. Preston looked, it was all strange conspiracies and ghosts. Mr. Logan saw guns. Alice saw that her church was having a summer fete. For Mr. Deck it was operas and subtitled films. But when Mr. Silton looked at it, I was shocked to find the entire thing was full of naked ladies.
Qué guarrindón con el señor Silton, ya le conocemos, lo conocemos bien.
Later that evening,
Madre mía.
Mr. Silton wheeled an old piano into the room. Heather smiled as she explained that her parents had bought it for her when she had seen it in an old junk shop. As a thank you, she had written a piece of music for her parents, which one day she tried to play for them.
¿Quién llama? Ah, el día que llegó el robot. El día que
For
llegué yo.
some reason, she then gave me a huge hug
Oh.
and suggested
Al principio no
I
le caía
might
muy
like
bien.
to play the piano with her.
Vale, lo entendí. Al principio no había cogido bien el ritmo.
As happy as the old lady was with us playing the piano, we soon got back to business. After scanning the house, she explained that, other than the escaped nanobots, there were 4 test robots that I would have to track down. They had each taken important satellite parts that we would need to broadcast the nice virus, and we had to get these parts back to the hallway with the rest of our equipment. If you're going to explore the house, said Mr. Silton, you should know some of the doors have been boarded up. Here, take my crowbar.
Oh,
Oi, that's mine, laughed Mr. Preston. You said you didn't take it. You really are a proper c***. Mr. Preston explained that they had used it in what he called their old business. I soon realized this meant all sorts of robbery, but he said that they'd given that all up after falling out with their old gang of associates. Although Mr. Preston's story was very interesting, Sim and the blind man had something even more interesting for me, something they called an auto map.
mapa automático. ¿Y para qué es eso? No me han dado ninguna pista. Mira, aquí están todos. Estoy aquí dormido escuchando música. Mapa automático. ¿Qué significa esto? Que tengo que llegar a esos 2 puntos. Dentro de la casa, claro. ¡Anda! Ahora tengo información de cada uno de los puntos. Vale. Esto va a ser complicado. Esto va más para abajo. No, por aquí no es. ¿Y ahora cómo subo? Ah, vale. El problema es que yo ahora mismo no puedo subir de aquí. No sé si por aquí va a haber otro camino, ¿eh? Madre mía, menudo Metroidvania. Se está marcando. A ver cómo... No puedo ir por ahí. Es muy fuerte esto. Muy fuerte. Lo voy a continuar porque de verdad, si no me pongo triste. Planta baja de la galería oriental. Sí, por aquí sí va a ser.
The block was very shiny. It looked like it might be able to reflect the laser beams.
Pero si no... No sé qué tengo que hacer. Ahora mismo. Estoy confundido. Estoy muy confundido. Porque no puedo subir, básicamente. Por eso estoy confundido. Y no puedo activar más rayos láser. O sea, es que aquí no puedo hacer nada. No puedo hacer nada. ¿En qué lo reboto? Qué extraño. Ah, pues por... Ah, claro. Entiendo. No, claro, eso no rebota un momento. No entiendo. Sí entiendo. Sí entiendo, pero soy tonto. Eso son cosas diferentes. Ser tonto no tiene nada que ver con entender o no entender. Vale. Pero... Ahora. ¿Pero qué estoy haciendo? Casi. Pero por aquí van los tiros, ¿no? ¡Bien! Ha costado, ¿eh? No tengo claro al 100% si era la mejor manera de hacerlo, pero lo importante es que ya está. A ver. Vale. Y ese tiene que ir... más o menos aquí.
After a while, I thought maybe it was a good idea to get the shiny block.
Sí, eso ya lo tengo hecho, cabezón. El tema, esto no es muy complejo para ser completamente obligatorio. Esto es lo máximo que se puede girar esto. Es muy poco, ¿eh? Es muy, muy poco. GG. Qué buen diseño de puzzles, poca broma. Muy, muy buen diseño de puzzles del juego. Si continúo me quema, claro. Vale, ¿dónde he dejado? Uf. Hola. Vale, en principio si dejo esto aquí puedo pasar, ¿no? Vale. Aprovecho y cojo lo que tenga. No, este es el azul. Claro, me va a matar, es que lo estaba viendo. Es que si muevo este, de cualquier manera me acaba matando. A no ser, claro, lo tengo que mover para otro lado. Si muevo este aquí... Es que solamente puedo mover uno. Usar esto no sé exactamente para qué sirve. Tío, me estoy rayando un poco. A ver, lo lógico... Si dejo eso ahí... No sé. Jorge Luis Serna, buenas Zorman, saludos. Envío un saludo para mi hijo Endrie Jair, que siempre mira tus vídeos. Besos y abrazos. Un saludo, amigo Endrie Jair, hijo de Jorge Luis. Grande, grande mirador de vídeos. Gran mirador de vídeos, épico entre épicos. Vale, vamos a quitarnos la espesura y vamos a pensar fríamente qué hay que hacer aquí. Solamente nos deja mover esto. Exclusivamente esto. Y este es el máximo. Aquí está. Era más fácil de lo que parecía. Estaba buscando cosas, fórmulas muy complejas. Ah, me cachis en la mar. Me cachis en la mar. Vale. Calma. Nice. Estoy yendo entonces en buen camino, ¿no? Por buen camino. Vamos a intentar primero cogerle la izquierda del todo. ¿Qué clase de casa encantada es esta?
This room used to terrify me. I always thought these ancient tribal masks looked like something from a nightmare.
La verdad es que no son muy alentadoras las máscaras tribales. Ya no puedo volver a llegar arriba. Tengo que saltar por aquí, ¿no? ¿Quién me ha dado? No sé qué me ha dado. Calma. Vale, ya está. Vaya. Vaya, vaya. Vaya. Creo que así lo concierto. No. Realmente esto no... Pues sí. Verde, naranja. Claro. Tengo que conseguir... Vale, creo que lo he entendido. Creo que lo he entendido. Tengo que pulsar el naranja. No. A ver, se supone que si pulso el naranja se tendría que levantar. No me deja pulsar este. Y creo que no me deja pulsar porque tengo que cambiar la posición del naranja y ponerlo ahí al lado, ¿puede ser? No. No. No estoy entendiendo. El suelo tiene un rayo, cierto, pero no creo que eso tenga algún tipo de utilidad, es que el suelo tenga un rayo. Estoy bastante confundido, ¿eh? Bastante confundido. No tengo ni idea de lo que... Vale, esto... Vale. No entiendo. Es que no entiendo, me estoy rayando, ¿eh? ¿Por qué no ocurre nada? ¿Alguien tiene idea de qué está ocurriendo? Oye, por cierto, ¿por qué estoy tan ciego de no ver que aquí hay un... No, de verdad, lo intenté pulsar y no hacía nada. ¿Por qué ahora sí? ¿Por qué ahora sí? No he entendido nada de lo que acaba de pasar en esta habitación. No pasa nada, lo importante es que lo hemos pasado. Vale. Abajo del todo, hacia la izquierda. Sirve para ir cuidando esto. Esto ya es más fácil. Perfecto. El problema es que creo que tengo que ir a la puerta de izquierda del todo. Ah, no. Pues ya lo tenemos. Ah. Vale. Ah. Calma. Estoy seguro que tarde o temprano me darán algún cachivache para poder nadar. Para ser acuático. Tío, este timing no es normal. Vale.
This was one of the most valuable things I've seen.
Sabía, tío, sabía que era. Vale, ya puedo entrar aquí, claro. Porque tengo la palanca. Esta es la famosa habitación. La primera famosa habitación. El invernadero. Con plantas carnívoras. No me cambian las plantas carnívoras. ¡Esta me quiere comer! Vamos. Oh, oh.
The boulder damaged the bridge.
Pero, un momento. Ah, vale, que tengo que intentar que el puente no sufra daño. Pero... Vale, es como un arcanoide. Iba a decir antes, que se me olvidó, que el juego está repleto de referencias y hay muchas que no he pronunciado. Otras muchas que seguramente, que obviamente no conoceré. Hay algunas que no he pronunciado también porque no estoy del todo seguro si me estoy volando. Por ejemplo, aquí, la planta que estamos viendo, no estoy seguro si eso es... Ay, mira. Un plasma de puntos viene abajo, vale. No sé si tengo que matar al cabezón. Sí, al cabezón tengo que matar. La planta de abajo, por ejemplo, se parece a la planta de la pequeña tienda de horrores. Estará hecha a posta. Y el cabezón de arriba no lo sé. Yo me ha recordado un poco al gigante de hierro, pero no. Vale, tenemos que matar al gigante de piedra. Ahí ya no podía hacer nada. Venga, vamos a tomárnoslo en serio. Ahí está. GG, ¿no?
As if from nowhere, Heather appeared. I was shocked. The house was a dangerous place for a well-trained robot, let alone a young lady. Why are you so surprised? She asked. I know this place at least as well as you. I wasn't able to salvage much from this robot, just some containers full of a funny-colored liquid. However, Heather was far more excited. Wow, she said, Dad told me about this, but I never actually saw it. She explained that, with a liberal coating on my joints and exposed areas, I would be able to submerge myself in water. I could now spend limited amounts of time swimming.
Bueno, limitado.
Only 10 seconds or so,
bueno, está bien.
But it certainly sounded fun. The machinery looked like it would explode in 10 minutes. I had to get it back to the hallway. I just hoped someone knew what to do with it.
Pero... ¿Qué tengo que pasar? 10 minutos para que flote esto ¿Y a dónde lo llevo? Pero ya puedo ir al agua, ¿no? ¡Qué guay! Hola. No sé qué estoy haciendo, tío. Mejor repetimos. Repetimos de nuevo porque estoy haciendo el tonto. Venga, vamos a ver. Ahora puedo ir por el agua, ¿no? Ok. Tío, pero... A ver. Lo de los 10 segundos es... Es que lo tengo que calcular yo, ¿no? Vale. Venga, pues empezamos. Venga, más se lo lleven. No sé por dónde puedo entrar. Ahí está. Y si me meto por aquí, cojo esa basura de ahí. Ahí está. Bueno, está guay, ya puedo ir por el agua. Pero tengo que salir de aquí antes de que pase este tiempo, porque si no, me voy completamente de picnic. Vale, hay unos cachivaches. Y vamos, supongo que tendré que llevar esto al principio, ¿no? Vamos, digo yo. Aaron Aguilar. Espérate, Aaron, un segundito. Creo que estoy yendo bien. Uf, esta pesadilla. A ver.
When I got back, I gave the circuitry to the old lady. It took her and the others a couple of hours to work out what to do with this part, but eventually we were ready to head up to the roof to fit it. Everyone else was worried that Mr. Preston had gone out hours ago. He was going to collect the mean machine and said he would only be 20 minutes. But Mr. Silton said he was sure he was fine, and we should set up the next satellite transmitter for the nice virus.
O sea, tenemos que ir a otro punto. Como ya tenemos la primera instalación hecha. Vámonos.
Mr. Silton and I were finishing up looking over the satellite dish. There was one thing I had always wondered about his home life. Due to the way she looked after him, I asked him if Mrs. Silton was in charge. But for some reason he got really angry, saying of course she isn't. But then ironically, we heard Mrs. Silton calling.
Su machirulismo.
For once Mr. Silton ignored her. At least until she sounded really annoyed. Mr. Preston explained to Mr. Silton that he had been attacked by their old gang associates, but Mr. Silton just got angry and said, "What do they want?" I told them we don't have the money from the post office robbery. He seemed to think that if their old associates tracked them down, then he and Mr. Logan would be able to scare them off. But the old lady pointed out that they would probably be more scared by what she described as a dangerous rogue robot.
O sea que tengo que ahora, antes de conseguir lo siguiente, tengo que asustar a la antigua banda. Me parece bien, porque me cae bien el rubito. El señor Preston, ¿no? Espero que os haya gustado, un like hermoso si os ha gustado, suscribiros si no estáis suscritos, comentad cualquier cosa que se pase por la cabeza y mirad estos dos vídeos tan hermosos. ¡Adiós!
Hago directos todos los días, ven a verme a Facebook.